All right, hello and welcome everyone to the Radiant Woman podcast, episode 8. So today we are joined by my beautiful friend of quite a few years now and also currently my business coach, Alex Tripod, who is a manifestation and business coach. So welcome, Alex. So
Thanks
great
for
to have you
having
here.
me, you radiant woman.
Thank you. Thanks for being on the Radiant Woman podcast.
And I'm glad we got the memo right with our clothing today.
Matchy.
Matchy. Love it.
Yeah. So, okay. So I would love to, first question, I'd love to
I'm nervous. What you going to ask me?
Nothing about big black dildos.
Okay, great.
So,
Awesome. Because, like New Earth Alexandra doesn't talk about New Earth dildos. Anyway. Okay. It's not a good start. It's a great start.
This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, things can get wild. Okay. So, first question. What led you to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I was reflecting back just over the weekend that, like, when I tell people that I had no self-belief, they don't believe it, because I don't think people understand who I was before I guess had my spiritual awakening. And it wasn't the typical, like, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't believe I could ever create financial freedom. I never believed I could create a business. The word business is like, what? Ugh. So it was like, what led me to, I don't even call myself an entrepreneur. I guess look at myself as,
What led you to becoming a coach then?
Yeah. Or a
life changer.
A solid business owner.
Yeah.
Was my rock bottom. And this rock bottom, like, completely, it was just that anxiety inducing rock bottom, what the fuck has my life come to moment. And I was 30 years old. And I was like, is this really who I am at 30? Is this what my life has amounted to? And it wasn't like, oh, I was broke or I was this. It wasn't like a particular thing, although it was heartbreak that led me to it. But it was like every area of my life. It's every area of my life I wasn't happy in. And so then that kind of just led me into really questioning what's the point in life. And then from there, there was this series of undeniable, orchestrated synchronicities from the universe. And it was just like, bam, 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 quit my job, took action, took out a loan, invested in myself. And it was just like, it was wild from the moment I made a decision. So to answer your question, crazy rock bottom that made me reevaluate what the fuck am I doing with my life.
And I love that. And what I really hear in that, which I totally relate to as well, is you ask the question, what is the point of my life? And then things started coming in and I love this because people can ask, what's the point of my life? Like, what am I doing here? And then they have, in life or God or universe or whatever you want to call it, is like, this is the point, and starts bringing all these things to you. But then so many people will be like, no. Like,
which is the power of a
like,
rock bottom, right? Because, and the
you have
actual
the
question
choice.
I started asking was, where it was like 3 days after I asked what's the point of life, and I started asking on my morning runs, universe, I want to know what I want. Because the book I was reading at the time said, if you don't know what you want, because I didn't know what I wanted. If you don't know what you want, just ask the universe. So I was like, okay, so I'm running down, I want to know what I want. I want to know what I want. And that's when the synchronicities happen, right? But I wouldn't have acted on those synchronicities and those signs and the Facebook ads and come to this and do that if I was in a comfortable, cushy place in my life. But because I loathed who I'd become and I was in such a world of pain, anything was better than my current reality, which is why I always say the most dangerous equation you can be on in any area of your life is a 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 health, a 7 out of 10 relationship, a 7 out of 10 business, because it's like, well, there's not enough pain. There's not enough leverage to ever create change. So I had so much leverage, and looking back at that, I'm so grateful because universe gave me signs and I was
and you
fucking
decided.
ready. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. So many people get the signs. It's like they're getting fucking slapped in the
Later.
face.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
like, no. And it's almost like we go through suffering the longer that we avoid that. And then finally when we're like, oh, okay. And then everything starts to get better. So I love that I'm hearing you asked the question, you got the answer, you got shown, and you decided
Yes.
to go all in. And I think even that, like the power of a decision is like underrated. Because when you decide, you cut off the other option. You go, I'm all fucking in. And that's the energy that really leads to quantum leaps and
100%.
shifts and bounds. So
because with the decision comes you deciding to be a different person. So it's an identity shift.
Totally.
And in order to create a new reality, we need to embody the new identity, whether it's a new relationship, a new financial situation, new anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so yes. And it's interesting too, because it's like, as human beings, why does, like, this is most people, right? Most human beings are initially motivated to get away from pain. And it's like, why do human beings have to get to such a place of like pain before they just
I've been
fucking
asking
change?
myself this question for 9 years. I'm like, I can have the best copy, best offerings, best workshops, but unfortunately, like if someone's not ready, they're not gonna do something scary like invest in themselves. Well, we've been conditioned as humanity to invest in energetics, to invest in embodiment work, to invest in manifestation, which is intangible things, which we've been programmed that's illogical to invest 2, 5, 10, 20K on.
Totally.
But to invest 20K in a car, that makes sense because we can see it with our physical eyes.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's like, I've been asking this question for ages, and there's a part of me that's like, I have to trust in the person's journey, that they are having the soul lessons that they need to in order. And if I can have one piece in that journey, whether it's they remember this one thing I said on stage, or whether I eventually become their coach, or whether or not, or they go work with someone else that's more aligned.
Or they hear one thing on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's, do you know what's, and this is an interesting combo, because I'd love to hear what you feel around this, because you've been 9 years into your personal development healing journey. Like, something that I've found is that, so initially, I was in pain, like pain to create change. And I was initially motivated by getting away from pain. But now in my life, if I kind of look around and even like look back on the last 2-3 years, I notice that there's a big shift in I'm more
towards more joy.
Yeah, it's my inspiration. And when I take action, like I'm following rather than getting away from pain. And this is really interesting too, because it's like, if you look at both me and you, like we both have pretty epic lives. So what is the motivation for us to up level and expand even more? And for me, it's just following my intuition or my aliveness, like just following my joy, following like what my soul is calling me into, like this running the event, even when it's fucking making me shit my pants. But
it's a good stretch zone, babe.
Yeah. But yeah, what's been your experience around like the shift from being motivated to get away from pain, whereas starting to be motivated by, it's not even motivation. No. It's like a pull rather than a push, like a force.
And it's like,
what's been your experience?
From the get-go, I heard this thing and it really landed for me. It's that motivation is push, inspiration is pull. And so for me, I wired myself so strongly, so unconditionally committed to my soul's mission to raise the vibration of humanity on a global scale that it's like every day there's a pull from my heart and it's inspiration. And that's not to say there hasn't been times in the last 9 years where I've been down to 5K or 2K in my bank account and being like, holy shit, fuck, like I need to make some money. And there has been still times where I've moved away from pain. And I've done the strategic thing that my coaches told me to do, or I know that works, right? Whereas now I'm like, what brings me joy? And so it's interesting because there's two ways I'm going to answer this. Number one, like, what brings me joy is and how I wire myself to this. It's like, for me, it's not even about anymore how much money I can accumulate into my bank account or how many properties I can purchase. It's about like, do I have the resources to create the soul downloads and the creations that exist in my heart? And so, for example, like this movie that I'm creating, it's like it is costing me a lot of money to create this movie, but like to share my 9 years of wisdom in a movie to humanity, like that is better than a house for me. That's what inspires me. That's what drives me.
Yeah.
And the other part is that this year was actually a really interesting year financially for me, because last year I finished up on a $2 million year sales wise, and logically I was like, oh, well, next year's going to be 4 million. And I haven't even hit close to 4 million. And I have no shame around that.
Yeah.
However, I have journeyed so much shame around not quantum shifting or not doubling. And it's been a really interesting collapsing of this money paradigm as a coach and where I should be at. And what I realized was actually there was no drive to have like, at one stage I had over $500,000 in my bank account. There was no drive to have more than that. Why would I need more than that? Why would I need more than $500,000 of cash in my bank account, right?
Yeah.
And so then I found myself depleting it and like running events and putting myself in billboards and doing this stuff, which is all soul mission things, right?
Yeah.
And until I landed in 2 months ago, my next level why, I don't think I'd ever be motivated for my next level income. So I do believe we've got to have a why that elevates us and inspires us, that is in full alignment with the bigger picture of not just us and our family and our kids and our legacy, but like humanity's needs, right? And so for me, 2 months ago, I downloaded and it was so clear, it made sense why I went to Richard Branson's island and everything. I'm going to buy an island and it's going to be called New Earth Island. And it's $25 million, the one I have my eyes on. And it's a 5-year vision, but I want to collapse that motherfucker into a 2-year vision. So like you best believe I'm going 8-figure next year. And it's calibrated to the bigger why. So it doesn't feel like an egoic, I've got to make this money. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yes, yes. And I love this conversation because
just buy an island. You heard it here first.
Yeah, but like that piece around like really tuning in to that, really taking that time and to reflect on, is this ego coming from like my why and something, that drive to create something and serve something bigger than myself, or is it coming from ego? Because over my last few years, I've been an entrepreneur for 8 years. I've had my fair share of brutal friggin' lessons of when I'm creating, like when I'm trying to hit goals from ego versus like the purity of my heart and like, that bigger why. So this is actually already in my questions, but did you want to share, do you have any experiences that come to mind where like stories where you're trying to hit that goal out of, but it was actually your ego driving you versus like heart, let's say, and you got a really big lesson or so something
many,
happened.
Babe. Like so many.
Yeah.
I think what I want to share with this one is like, it's really interesting because even just recently I had my event in London and we had like 89 bookings, people booking with my team after the event.
Yeah.
And I had like Athena and Kenny like after the event being like, oh my God, babe, this is going to be your first $1 million month. And they were pumping me up. It's like, it's going to be your first $1 million month. And like my ego could have easily been like, yeah, it's going to be $1 million month. And it just didn't feel like it's about getting to a point where just because you can doesn't mean you should, doesn't mean it's in the greater good. And like really discerning, like I had to feel into the resistance in my body. Is this fear or is this actually me knowing like I actually don't choose that timeline?
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting to have to go inwards to my own desires, my own discernment, because I have had goals before where catastrophe hasn't happened, but I've had too many experiences before where I've set really big goals and then I've aimed for here, I've landed here, And instead of feeling proud of myself that I even got to here, I feel horrible about myself because I'm focusing on the gap that I didn't reach the million, or I didn't fill out 1,000-person event. I only got 460. Like, I'm done with those days. And that was the first 4 or 5 years of my business. Always thinking it was going to be bigger and better. And my expectations were so fucking high.
Yeah.
And like to a point, like it's good to have that because I truly believe your goals, it's not about getting the thing, it's about the woman you become in the attainment of it, right? So it's the capacity that you're building on your journey
Seeing
to that
what you're
goal.
made of.
But I didn't have that knowledge, even as a manifestation coach, even with all the personal development. I was like, I'm going to get that goal. And when I get that goal, then I'm going to be enough, which is completely opposite from what I fucking teach. So first 4 or 5 years of business, I reckon I've had some brutal lessons. Yeah. And now I'm like, if it's a slower burn, awesome. If becoming 8-figure takes me 3 years, awesome. If the New Earth Island isn't ready until I'm fucking 50 and it takes 10 years, awesome. Because I'm here to live in presence and alignment every day. There's no more getting to.
Totally. Yeah, I literally just heard I heard a quote this morning, and it was like, instead of always trying to get there, how can you be more here? It's like, because that is such a common thing. And I love what you shared in there around, when I get there, then I'll feel good enough. Because like, let's dig into that for a moment.
Entrepreneur biggest trap, right?
Totally. And this is like what I'm, the work that I do and I'm obsessed with, because, really with what we shared around setting goals from ego, it's like, well, the bigger the wound, the bigger the ego. And so it's like, if I look back on my journey, my huge thing was like, I need the success and the money because then I'll finally be good enough. And I was just looking for love. Yeah. I was looking for the love I didn't get from my dad particularly. And it was just like this big void that I was trying to fill through money and achievement and also physical appearance. But like, and it just felt like... And literally that wound, because it was almost like that little girl within me was like, here's the car of my life. Me as the woman, I'm in the passenger seat, and that little girl is just like driving. She can't fucking stop because she's like, I just want love, and thinking she's going to get it through.
Can you read that line? The bigger the wound, the bigger the...
ego.
Right.
The bigger the wound, the bigger the ego, because the ego is the protection of the wound.
I'm just clocking and... love everyone in the industry. I'm just clocking. I'm like, I'm like, and then I'm also reflecting back on how I've evolved with my ego. Like, I'm like, oh wow, I can totally see it. Yeah. I had a huge ego for probably the first 3 years of business because I was full driving from not enough. My foundations in my business is I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. And then when I started doing the inner child healing, mixed with my metaphysical manifestation knowledge, that's when everything shifted. But before that, I was like, bigger, better, more, duh. And even though I'm doing bigger, better every year now, it's now coming from a more wholesome place and more of a like, I know I'm enough. My life is amazing and I'm happy in the now. And I also get to create awesome, epic shit and evolve.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about, what was the work that you did around your not good enough wound? Because pretty much I've never met a person who doesn't fucking have the not good enough wound or not enough wound in some form. So, what was the work you did around that?
For me, it was amplified being in a relationship where we reflected our biggest, deepest wounds to each other. And it was like before I had an understanding of like how I was really creating my reality from wounds, I didn't realize that she and the situations I was experiencing could only ever reflect like the frequency that I was embodying inside and the stories and the pattern that was playing out. Yeah. And so it got to a point where like that was so painful, and I'm so grateful looking back on that relationship now because that was like the second rock bottom. So the first rock bottom was my spiritual awakening. Yeah. And then about 3-4 years into my business, there was a second rock bottom. Yeah. And basically it was like I was told that basically my ex's therapist had told her that it sounds like I have borderline personality disorder. And I freaked out. I truly believe that any like bipolar, borderline personality, like that's all just a Western name for an inner
Symptoms
child
of
wound.
trauma.
Honestly, that's unhealed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was researching it, and tears were streaming down my face, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm mentally unwell. I can't like show up. This is fucked. Like I'm gonna I want to like move back home," and started on my journey. And this is why I truly believe, like, yes, healing takes time, but also, like, healing can be rapid too. And so I put myself in like I would say like a 12-week, almost like a inner child wound incubator, where I went completely offline. I'm so grateful that I had enough money that I didn't care, like need like the next client. I moved back home, and it was just like me and the beach and the sauna and my embodiment coach, weekly sessions, voice noting her every day, dropping into grief every time I felt it, mourning the vision of what I had with this woman who I thought I was going to marry. But like excruciating pain and grief for like a minute or two, holding myself and then relief. And then I realized that actually I no longer fear the waves of grief, but I used to fear grief. I didn't want to feel grief. I didn't want to feel the pain that was going to come. So I would distract myself. And then when I realized actually every time I embraced the grief and the shame and the dense emotions, I felt this like almost high, like this acceptance, this neutrality that would almost immediately follow it. And that was the first time I think in my life where I stopped fearing lower vibrational emotions. And in that 12-week period, babe, honestly, like everything changed. And then I paired up self-concept with it. So it was like I was feeling my feelings, but then I was calibrating to the new identity. So I was doing both. Whereas a lot of people, I feel like, only focus on this or only focus on that.
100%.
So I had both of the balance, 12 weeks, like crazy. And I had like incredible transformation. And then I think I continued with my embodiment coach for about 2 years straight. And now I'm finally at a stage where, not that I don't need her, but I'm able to like
feel your feelings.
I'm able to drop in myself, and I don't need a coaching session for her to be like, hey, like 2 years straight, every single week, embodiment coach. Like she helped me so much.
Love that.
Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, embodiment coaching.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be multi-7-figure without that coach. I really don't think.
It's making me look
She's
great.
loving this. I'm so glad I invited my coach onto this podcast episode. She's going to snippet that as a reel. Just you wait.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, I love that. And I love what you shared around like when you, like at first you're afraid of feeling the intense, let's call them intense emotions, because my belief there's no such thing as negative emotions. It's just, there's just emotions,
Call them
right?
lower vibrational emotions. They're lower
Uncomfortable, intense.
They're low vibrational.
Okay, all right. So those feelings, like at first, you're like scared of feeling them, and I love that you share that, because I think that's something that most people can relate to, and that was the same as me. I had this thing of like, if I open the floodgates, I'll drown. Like I was terrified, because especially for me, there was so much there because of what I've been through. It's like, fuck, if I even just start to open this up, it's going to be like Pandora's box and fucking consume me. But exactly what you shared around when you actually just embraced the uncomfortable emotions and let them move through, then oh my God, you came to this place of neutrality and acceptance and like this amazing feeling, because that's everything. Like that's emotional mastery, because an emotion literally takes 90 seconds. Did you know that? Wow. 90 seconds to move through the body. Wow. But what people do is they're like, I don't have time to feel this. I'm afraid to feel this. I'm just going to keep busy, do more strategy, do this.
Which
and then they're like,
usually it is like 90 seconds and then it's a relief.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's for me, it was
aside from grief moves in waves. It's different, but all of sadness and like all of these other ones. Yeah,
for me, it was like feeling the intensity of the emotion.
Yeah,
it was the first time I experienced it without actually going to a spiral of the story, which allowed me to focus on the emotion in the body.
Yeah.
instead of going into story, which would keep me in the emotion and looping.
Exactly.
Because
it takes 90 seconds for it to move through the body. And if it's taking longer than 90 seconds, then we know that there's a story that you're looping that keeps perpetuating the emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought I was doing inner child work whilst I was with this woman because I was trying to heal it while I was with her.
Right.
And I couldn't because I actually didn't know how to hold myself. And so it was like part of the reason why I was so scared to feel the emotions is because in my deep pain of sadness or grief or shame or whatever the emotion was, my biggest thing was when I was in the emotion, it was like I felt like no one knew what this pain felt like and no one understood the depths of the pain that I'm feeling. So there was a feeling for me of feeling alone. But then once I realized like I've got me and I started to talk to my inner child in a way I never have before, even though it felt a bit clunky at the start and like being like, I've got you. I'm right here. I'm your ride or die. I'm not going anywhere. And like just saying these things over and over and over again. And some, like it was like the first time I was like, fuck, like you said, emotional mastery because I've got me no matter what. And I didn't have that tool when I was with this woman. Yeah. Because I knew that no matter what she did, if my hologram was showing me that she'd run off or do this or go chat to that guy or whatever, that trigger, I could attend to my trigger. But I didn't know how to do that. I would sit and loop in the freaking story and stay in my righteousness and my ego. And I would never find that inner peace that I was able to provide for myself. And now I can fucking do that after 2-3 years of doing this work.
And that's really
Which feels so powerful, doesn't it?
It's fucking powerful.
Like for me, that's more powerful than a 100K month. To know that I can hold myself, to know that Kenny can break up with me tomorrow and then I've got me and I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's better than a 100K month.
Absolutely.
Like, will I still be sad? Sure. Have I got me? Fuck yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And that even interlinks, like, would you say around one thing that I've noticed, say, especially this year, is it's like actually the more that your success or your impact grows, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, the more that you need to have that I've got me because you're holding more, like there's more going on. There's going to be more challenges, like things are going to happen. And so, yeah, it's like I loved learning last year how studies have shown that like the people at the top of their game, like CEOs and professional athletes, the one who perform the best have a really great like emotional well-being. And so, yeah, it's like what would you say it to someone who, they're making, I don't know, let's say they're making 20K months and they're wanting to go to 100K month, but they have not yet developed that sense of like, I've got me. They're still so much in a place of like, oh, if that client finishes up working with me or that person says no or this challenge happens, they're going to crumble and fall apart. Like it just...
Yeah. There's so many ways we can go around this. Getting capacity is a huge one. Yeah. But there's also like, it really does come down to like, do I feel safe to shift into receiving 50K cash months?
Yeah.
Because part of my understanding of manifestation is when we make it a big deal, we're subconsciously rejecting it. Mm-hmm. So it's like when people are millionaire, so make love, and it's because we've been programmed to believe that these things are, that these things are like hard to get or requires hard work. So it's like, what are the stories attached to as soon as you hear 100K months? Hard work, effort, responsibility, like, and so if we don't feel safe, like, so part of the work I believe is how do we normalize and start saturating our internal world to be an energetic match for it. Because you can implement all the strategies and do all the things on the external, but if you don't feel safe to receive that money, then it's not going to happen. Totally. And I know this because like as much as for me it's like, strategy, manifestation, yes. And like I've also, and I'm not ashamed to share this, I've been coded with cash codes from a very young age. So for me, seeing piles of cash is normal. It's safe. Cash for me is so safe. You could give me 100K today and I feel safe receiving it. Where most people were like, and their unconscious minds and bodies would find creative ways to get rid of it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we code ourselves? How can we rewire our nervous systems? How can we saturate our subconscious mind to actually feel worthy and safe to receive this? And of course, knowing that there's like things to create and offerings and an energetic exchange of it as well. It's not just kumbaya, meditate on your navel and it'll come, but a big, huge part of it is safety and the worthiness to receive it.
The worthiness, yeah.
And can I handle it?
Yes.
Can I handle 100K in my bank account right now? Can I handle $1 million in my bank account right now? So can I handle it is where the capacity comes from. Do you have capacity to hold 50K cash months? Do you have capacity for it? And the capacity is built through, and this is where most people don't want to do the work. The capacity is built through the journey of your desire of your 50K cash month, and you're at 20K cash months, but you just want it. But your capacity is built in all the soul lessons and all the codes that are going to be unlocked and all the things that you'll navigate into this. And that might take 30 days and that might take fucking 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Which is why you need support like me and Chi.
Yeah. Exactly. And something I feel like I see for so many people is like still this, you know, most people have heard the saying that success is 80% the inner work and only 20% strategy. But I feel like what I see is that most people do the opposite. They're like putting 80% of their time into like what the perfect strategy and like Instagram and like this and the perfect this and that. And they're spending fuck all time. Let's just be real here
100%.
On what's going on in here. Because it doesn't like, and then they're going, oh, I'm doing all the things and it's not working.
Or like, are you doing all the things?
Yeah.
Or is your inner world actually self-sabotaging you from even showing up to implement all the things that are necessary? Because I agree, there's some people that do all the strategy and it still doesn't work because they're ignoring this.
Yeah.
And there's other people that think they're doing the things, but you're not even doing 20% of what your mentor or coach has told you that you're needing to set up, because you keep self-sabotaging, or you keep pushing out your to-do list, or you keep pretending to do the things that are going to generate revenue, like post a fucking reel or do a little cute little written post that you've generated from chat fucking GPT, when really what it's required is for you to push yourself out of your comfort zone and run that first fucking live workshop or do that thing or make that investment or do the things that actually to push you out of your comfort zone, because you're wanting to create a life of abundance that most people don't have, but you're wanting to create it by doing the things that most people are willing to do. Where the reality is, if you want the life that most people don't have, you have to be willing to do the things that most people aren't willing to do.
Yeah. Like the things that make you want to shit your pants.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, totally.
It's part of growth.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I feel like that even links back to, this is something that's come up for a couple of clients in the last few months, is like they go, oh, you know, I feel like I need to do this, but like, how do you get rid of the fear? Or like, I'm not doing it because I'm so scared. And I'm like, listen, the only difference between a successful person and a non-successful person is that they both feel fear, because fear, and I think it's almost like people's relationship to fear, they need to change it, because it's like, fear isn't actually bad or wrong. It's literally there to keep us alive. It's a nervous system response to keep us fucking alive. So instead of just listening to it or seeing it as a bad thing, it's like the successful person just goes, hey, fear, they breathe into it, they let it move through the body. And it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also it's the relationship
It's just
of fear,
courage.
knowing that, oh, like I felt this before and I know right now fear is a liar, because like, and just mind my languaging here.
Yeah. Well, it's like anytime we're about to step, I think this is the thing, it's like anytime we're about to step into something that we've never done before, there's always going to be fear because we've never done it before.
At our edge, right?
Exactly.
I'm on that edge. This is what fear is telling me.
And fear's like, is this safe?
Yes. And
Yeah.
I feel like for me, the way I process it is like I still felt, I want to say I felt fear stepping on stage at my Major Millions event, but like those nerves. But probably the first 25 workshops I ran in my first 3 years of business, fucking fear. So much fear, babe. So much fear.
Yeah.
And why I followed through every time was I had collated enough evidence in my life that every time I stepped into fear or stepped into courage, on the other side of doing the thing that my ego told me that if I did it, I would die, on the other side, realizing that I didn't die. In fact, I just became a better version of me.
Exactly.
Actually, I had that many collated evidence of it that I was like, okay, I'm not going to die. Whereas people that have never fully embraced fear or stepped into their courage, that fear feels
very real.
Like it feels so real and it keeps them trapped, right?
Yeah.
Whereas me and you know, like, okay, this is familiar. And every time we've pushed past this, whoa, there's a Chi version 2.0. There's an Alex version, whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's like, I remember years ago, one of my, because, you know, people's common things, right, as I'm sure you've heard, is like, what if I fail? What if this goes wrong? What if that happens? Like all the mind presents us with all these things. And a few years ago, a mentor was like, are you going to die? If the answer is no, fucking do it. Period. It's like, yeah, 100%. It's really that simple. Yeah.
But did you die? No.
Yeah. Or are you going to die?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll fall, maybe I'll fall over on stage or I'll fart in front of people or the worst things could happen or I'll lose all my money, but still, I'm not going to die. And I feel like even, you've mentioned about your rock bottoms and I've definitely had, my dark nights of the soul, my rock bottoms. I feel like actually there's so much power in those moments when you do hit rock bottom, because it's like, for me, for example, we got to the point where we ran out of money. We had an 18-month-old baby. We were in a tent for 2 weeks because we couldn't even put our freaking a roof over our head. And it's like, but this is like so many stories for so many people, like Christy, now she's a multimillionaire. She was sleeping in her car at one point. Regan Hillier, she was sleeping on her friend's couch. It's like there's so many stories. And I think the power, at least that I took away from that situation, was like, yeah, it was fucking hard, but I didn't die. Like we still had a roof over our head, even if it was a sheet material roof over our head. We still have food in our belly. I was actually okay. Yeah. And even realizing the worst part about it was actually just how I treated myself in the process. And
your anxiety of this illusion of the fear of the worst case scenario. Because if we were actually more present, like fear can't exist in the present moment, right? But it's the human's compulsion to live almost exclusively from pain from past experience or anxiety of the future. And so for me, anytime I feel fear around like making a huge investment or money running out or whatever, like it used to, like probably the first 4 years of my business, I used to have this like crazy fear that I wouldn't be able to fulfill my mission on earth because I'd run out of money and I'd be a fucking failure and I'd have to go move back in with mum and dad. Yeah. And so what I started doing was visiting the timeline of my worst case scenario and being like, okay, am I dead? No. Yeah. Okay, we're going to worst case scenario. Okay, a friend will take me and I'll sleep on the couch. I'll move back home with mum and dad. Like, will I still be able to eat food? Someone will feed me and I will have a bed to sleep on. And I have the trust in myself that I will be able to, if I've created success before, I'll create success again. Like, it was like, I went there. I was like, the ego had me believing I will die.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that's how real it can be.
It felt like I'm going to die. And I was like, when I realized actually the worst case scenario is I just have a few home cooked meals from mum and a bed to sleep on and move back home to Melbourne for a bit as I get my shit together and do some embodiment work and manifestation again 101. Fucking great. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, I'll invest 220K in this stupid thing that I invested in. Oh, well, that was a big mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love that. So, yeah, ways of dealing with failure and
Yes.
and fear, because it's like people say they're afraid of failure, but actually we're afraid of the feeling of failure
100%.
because it's only the interpretation, right?
100%.
Okay. I would love to know
Yes, my darling.
what what are your radiance rituals?
Ooh.
What are the things that have you feel radiant?
Well, I don't call them radiance rituals.
I know. The things you do that have you feeling radiant.
Yeah. So my morning practices. So I would say at the moment I cannot not move my body. So
Yeah.
whether it's going for a long walk down the beach on the days I can't be bothered going to the gym, or whether it's a nice workout at the gym, I need to move and get a bit of a sweat.
Yeah.
The second thing would be I then grab a coffee and I go down to the beach and I have like all of my version, and I've got like quality questions, gratitude rants, magical script. I talk to my guides, and I've got it in the notes section of my phone just in case I don't feel like that I can just riff.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically like I put on really incredibly emotive music and I read out like this stuff out, and I just, by the end of it, I'm feeling so freaking connected. So it's a mix between like speaking out my timeline, going in gratitude rants, talking to my team, doing a bit of galactic woo-woo stuff, but also mixed with like neuroscience and repatterning my brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do some tapping. Like I'll really mix it up. It's like
Yeah.
almost like a manifestation lucky deep at the beach every single morning. So I'll spend about 45 minutes full raising my vibration, being a full freak. It's great. And then every single day will be 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, which puts me into absolutely Zen bliss state.
Mm-hmm.
And my team, whatever you want to call them, my soul family, have basically instructed me this morning like twice a day now. I'm like, okay, so twice a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And then was one more that I was going to share with you. I've lost it.
What? Yeah, so I love those. And like,
and my vibe boosters.
Yeah,
So I plug
your vibe
into
boosters.
small little audios throughout the day with breathing. So like puts me into hyper coherence, really emotive music, and just 5 minutes, bam, I open my eyes. And like my state is completely shifted. So I like to plug into those throughout the day just to make sure I'm managing my energy throughout the day. Because if I'm spending hours on a computer and it's zapping my energy or like that kind of stuff, it puts me into that radiance again, that magnetism again.
Yeah.
And I feel inspired to create.
Yes, I love that. And what are the things that, like outside of those kind of like ritual routine things, that bring you joy?
Like I love going to the supermarket, getting ingredients and cooking with candy in the kitchen every night. We got this cute little ritual every night where we'll like put on romantic music and songs, or we'll like dance, and we're like full being idiots and we're just cooking and it's amazing. And then like every time we eat, there's not a meal that we eat without blessing the food. And then like, what were the highlights of the day? What are the gratitudes? So just like for me, it's high vibrational, conscious, present conversations. And whether that's with candy or whether it's with people like friends I love, right? Just these present, beautiful conversations.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely something about like food and connection. Food, connection, music, being present with the food, having that quality time. Yeah.
Quality time.
Yeah. Spaciousness brings me so much joy. When I look at my calendar, there's fuck all on my calendar all week, and I'm like, it's better than $1 million.
Yes, totally. Me too.
Yeah, spaciousness. To choose to do what I like, when I like, whenever I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. We had a similar response from Vic. She was on last week.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, also sex, also dancing.
Yeah.
There's so many things, babe. Yeah.
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 Okay. I was waiting for you to talk about the dildo.
No.
We had Yoni Elixir on here last
I
week.
love it. Love it. I love Victoria. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's a vibe.
It was a really good podcast. Okay, so what would you say, what are your top 3 things that you've learnt on your entrepreneurial personal growth journey of the last 9 years?
Top 3. Ooh, okay. Top 3 would have to be that manifestation and mindset is incredible. And when paired up with the embodiment work is 10 times more powerful because we are creating from a place of more wholeness. Yeah. So that for me, that shift that happened about 4 years into my business changed everything. Yeah. Like everything. So much more presence in my field.
Amazing.
Number 2, it's an oldie, but it's something I still abide to. It's that we are all on some level seeking freedom, right? So whether it's financial freedom, mental freedom, emotional freedom.
Yeah.
And so I truly believe that it's consistency and devotion or discipline and a structure that creates freedom. And when most people think freedom, they're like, oh, I just want to wake up and do what I like when I like. If I woke up and I roll out of bed and I did what I like when I like, I would eat a bag of fucking Cheetos, I would put on the L Word on Netflix and I would do fucking nothing, right? Yeah. So what I really truly believe is like consistency and discipline, and whether you hate that word discipline, you want to use devotion, but there's a structure and there's a consistency of our vibrational practices that we just need to choose as a lifestyle. And I've chosen it as a lifestyle. And I can see a direct correlation between when I'm consistent, when my business booms, or when I'm sloppy and my business goes to shit.
Yeah.
And I've seen that time and time and time again over my 9 years. And I'm not immune to it just because I've raised my vibration to a certain level. It's a lifestyle now. So that's the second thing.
Yeah.
And the third thing I would say is that you can have the best strategy in the freaking world. You can talk to the best business strategists in the entire world and they can give you their $1 billion strategy, but 7.8 billion people would have 7.8 billion different results because we all have different personal energetic frequencies. And at the end of the day, our programming system, our nervous system, and our frequency will determine the results. So no strategy is ever a guarantee. And if you're not doing this work, then you're fucked with just a strategy is my true belief.
Totally. Yeah.
Because I've had the best strategies implemented when I've gone sloppy in my practices, and I've had the worst launches. And then I've also had the best vibrational practices with a mediocre strategy, and I've had incredible launches. So I actually do believe that the frequency is more powerful, but we can't ignore the strategy if we're wanting to scale to 7 figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, funny because that's my next question is
right.
what would be your number one piece of advice that you would give to someone wanting to create a 7-figure business?
Oh God, number one piece. If I'm going to go number one, like just one, you want to make sure that your offer suite is scalable. So like, you know, are you trying to scale with one-on-one still? Or what's your belief system around I have to exchange time for money? Because I can look at the most powerful healer in the world or a shaman and they still believe that they have to be with the person or the student for the transformation to happen. So they need to have a mindset shift and a belief that they are so powerful that their codes can be transmitted through trainings or through one-to-many. And they don't always have to be there one-on-one with the client. And sometimes, and that could be a hybrid package, but if you don't have a scalable product suite, then you can literally not scale to 7 figures because you can't clone yourself in this reality. Well, maybe with AI coming out, who knows? But, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So that would be probably the number one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's building on all the 3 things that you touch on as well. I'm assuming because those are all the things that have, helped you to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Just what you shared. Like that's something that you helped me with. Like, yeah, I know there was a huge breakthrough that I had
in Hawaii.
Yeah. In March. So in March, we were in Hawaii. And yeah, it was a big shift. And can I share something in that which I felt was like a huge mindset shift within creating, like now I have this epic office suite, which is like really impactful and feels really juicy and aligned, was like seeing people in their power, like seeing me in my power and then seeing other people in their power, and not, because I feel like I had a bit of this, you know, because I'm someone who went through a lot and I've been through some really dark times, and there's, you know, I felt like there's definitely been times where I've needed a lot of like one-to-one and someone to just really be there for me. But then what I did was I projected that onto other people, assuming that they're like that as well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, like there's always going to be a time in our time and times in our journey when we need some one-to-one. I still like believe that. But it was just shifting, like, yeah, people are so powerful. People are not damsels in distress. And I think especially as coaches, like we can go into this hero save the world complex. You know, like I've just got to help everyone and like I need to save the world kind of thing.
We're not helping them at all with that. Because how are we observing them?
Exactly.
We're observing them as the person that needs help or the victim. So
totally.
The most powerful thing we can do as coaches is actually to speak to them as if they were already in their highest timeline, as if they were in their power, as if they understand what we're sharing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And this is something we touched on like last week with Victoria. She asked me the question around like, where do you think, like what are the shifts happening in the coaching industry right now? And because there's been so much shifting and changing these past few years. And I feel that's one of the big ones is shifting out of like, I feel like in the past, and what we're shifting really out of is like the coach is like, you know, on the pedestal and like, because they've got all their success and their achievements and their accolades. And then the mentee is like less powerful somehow. Mm-hmm. And we're just crumbling all of that bullshit of the hierarchical structures. Mm-hmm. And so now the way that I see my work is like, and it's even in my magical script, is like I see my clients in their power. And I always call them into their power when they forget it.
Yum.
And that's how I see them. So
do you want to know what I believe about the coaching industry?
Sure. I would love to hear. Yeah.
I believe that the coaching industry is, how do you call it? Cleansing itself.
Yes.
And
definitely.
I feel no need to call out people because
no.
By them sharing out of alignment, out of integrity things that they have not yet embodied and faulty fucking codes.
Yeah.
They are only shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And they will stay in the 3D paradigm of business.
Yeah.
And so I think there's actually, just like the earth is vibrationally splitting.
Yeah.
I believe there's a splitting of the industry too.
Yeah.
And there's going to be this bro marketing and speaking to the pain points and fears and funnels and and trickery. And there's going to be new earth business where you can feel the frequency. And like there's all these souls in the middle. And it's going to be very interesting split. But I feel like excited by this because we're going to start seeing who new earth 5D leaders truly are. And whatever language you want to put in it.
Totally.
New earth is my language.
Yeah. The people who are really in heart.
Embodied, soul-led businesses.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's fucking exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's very exciting. And like one of my mentors last year who is like incredible and like her purpose on this earth is to teach coaches how to be fucking incredible, highly skilled, you know, coaches. And something that she said was, you know, over the next 5 years, it's like in 5 years' time, only the really great coaches will remain.
Exactly.
And because it's almost like the people are just becoming more awake and aware and seeing through any of that kind of the smoke and mirrors.
Well, especially with like the resources we have at the fingertips right now, right? You look at like how easy it is to make a reel look really good, or how easy it is to create copy on a landing page using ChatGPT. And I'm so grateful for these resources, but at the end of the day, it's so easy for any newbie coach to look professional. Like there's Canva, there's this, there's that, there's a cheap VA from the Philippines. It's like it's not that hard, right? So what's gonna differentiate? It's the person that has the fucking wisdom and the lived experience that's actually going to be able to like that's an embodiment of what they offer.
Totally. And can get people the transformation results.
Not like I'm a wealth strategist, but I've got $2 in my bank account. Or I'm like I say it so often, babe. No, it's not even funny. It's like I could write a post, or I could just let them learn their lesson. La 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 la.
But it's yeah, it's funny. And when you talk about like you can make things look beautiful, it made me think of when we're in Fiji, and you looked at my Instagram, and you're like, "How the fuck did you do a 50K month when your Instagram's so shit?"
Oh my goodness, so calling it forth in a really aggressive way, I guess.
And I was like, yeah, but it's true. It's because like so many.
I think I was excited for you because like if you make 50K with your Instagram looking like this, imagine what we could do when we get it aesthetically looking right.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So, yes. Okay. I think that's all my questions that I have for you.
I would love to ask you a question.
Oh my God. Okay. Now I'm nervous.
Okay. My question is, you've already answered one of them, so I have to get rid of that one.
Okay.
But my question is, out of all your radiant practices, what would you say is the one? Because for me, I've got ones that I know are good for me, but I don't particularly love doing, but I know they're good for me, like meditation.
Right.
Or like sometimes when I read a magical script, it's like, I just know the consistent. But what's one that you just brings you so much joy that you actually love it? And doesn't mean you do it every day, but I'd love to know a practice that you do and describe it for us.
Yeah. Well, there's two that pop into mind when you ask that, and one is literally like we walk a 5-minute walk, live a 5-minute walk from the ocean. I love just when the sun is out, just walking down to the ocean, and something about just jumping. I don't need to stay in the water for long, but just jumping in the water, and like that moment when I come out of the water and I just feel like a different person. Maybe it's because
you a water sign?
No, I'm an air sign. But you know, my massage therapist, who's very intuitive, she kept saying to me when she massages my ankle, she's like, I'm just really feeling mermaid energy.
Oh, wow. There you go. Past life as a mermaid, everyone. Love it.
She's like, I feel like in another dimension. Anyway, so that's an instant like, for me. I love that. And it's being in nature and there's just sun shining on me. It just brings me a lot of presence and like everything's good. The other thing that I really love, honestly, is like listening to music. So, but like in an intentional way. So it's not just like listening to some, I don't know, like rap where it's like, you know, hey ho, drop your ass and shake. It's like I actually really love sometimes just in my room and it's just me. And we have like full glass, you know, ceiling to full glass, and it just looks out on the trees and like the sun. And I just like lay on my bed and I just put like a beautiful playlist on. And I just it's almost like going on a journey. There might be some emotions that come up, it might be sadness, it might be joy. And it just helps me I just feel really connected to myself. And I just love music. Music and dance are a medicine for me.
Me too.
And sometimes that's choir, but yeah, it's a similar thing, right? It's just choir is a bit more structured. Yeah,
I'm a sucker for
Yeah.
Emotive music.
Yeah.
Cinematic music. Anything that like makes me feel. And also like sometimes I'll like go on a visual journey. So I'll get shown like the future or me on stages.
Same.
Like it's really
I always see me on stage.
The quantum, don't you? Like it's beautiful. Because it's the emotion and like our heart is the largest electromagnetic energy generator in our entire body. And when we feel with our heart, it's actually been measured that it's 5,000 times more powerful than thought frequency.
Absolutely.
So just like literally by putting on a playlist and like letting your heart taking you on a journey, you're manifesting and then being in that reality of like, instead of being like, oh, that's not real yet. Like, what if you just go in the quantum and enjoy it? You know? I have another question for you.
Absolutely. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of like it's almost like I'm asking you this as your coach, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is this okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So you've been in business for
about 8 years
so
now.
you got some experience around like workshops and masterclasses and all these things that we do to warm up our audience, to give them a taste of what we do, to
Yeah.
like, you want the real deal, come and work with me, yeah?
Yep.
My question to you is, out of all like the masterclasses, the workshops, everything that you've done, what's the thing that brings you the most joy that you do, that lights you up, that you know if you were to double down on?
Events.
Events. So live events. In-person events.
Yeah. Getting
Right.
belly to belly with people.
I'm just going to clock that as so whenever she needs some coaching, events. Because it's your stretch point and it's your joy point.
Totally.
Bam, bam.
Yeah. Exactly. No, absolutely. And it's like with what
And do you feel like you're bringing the most clients with live events because you create that connection with them too?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. And it's like what you shared around, like I love the playlist, the cinematic where it's like this like da-na-na-na-na-na-na, and like, but every time, because I have a belief of like, if it's meant for you, you'll be able to see it so clearly. But the things that aren't meant for you and like they're coming from ego or whatever, you're gonna have trouble actually seeing it.
Yeah.
And that's just a simple way to know, right? I've always seen myself, and I even remember in 2016 I watched Tony Robbins' I'm Not Your Guru. Did you watch that? Yeah. 2016. So I'm
if
like,
that didn't inspire you, you're not a coach.
go quit now. No, yeah. I literally remember, so I'm like 24 years old and I'm sitting on the couch and I literally had this out of body, but also like in my body where just my whole body was like vibrating and lit up. And it was just like, whew, this full clarity of like, that is what I'm here to do. And I just knew. And then like ever since then, every time there's like music or I'm like in that super high vibe state, I always see myself on stage. It's like I just know that's what I'm here for and what I'm meant to do.
I use music like cinematic stuff to channel all sorts. I channel like like sales pages, like copy. I channel like my new like anything. And sometimes I'll channel like scripts that I've got to put in the movie, like all sorts of stuff, and it's never manufactured. It's just like, and like when I pair that up with running as well, if I'm running down the beach or on the treadmill and I've got this music on, it is like I am just getting full throttle
downloads.
And sometimes I have to like stop and be like writing my notes. It's like crazy.
Totally. Yeah. And that's probably, and you're a Manny Gen, like for both generators, Manny Gens, we usually get most of our, when we're moving, like the movement is medicine. That's when we get most of our things come through. Like I can feel more connected to God just when I'm just like dancing, like on the land, just than even just sitting down doing a meditation, you know. So I do meditation as well. Joe Dispenza.
I'm going to switch my evening meditation session for a walking meditation down the beach. And I'm just going to put soft frequency music on and do a 20-minute walk down the beach, because as much as I love sitting and meditating, it's hard to get into sometimes. Like there's so much resistance still to me. Even though I know meditation is good for my mind. Yeah. This fucking shit again. Shut up the chitter chatter of my ego. I have to sit in silence. I've got better shit to do than this. And every time I do it, I feel great. I'm going to try walking meditation, movement. Thank you for the inspiration, my love.
Oh, welcome. Cool. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up today?
Just that you're looking radiant, and it was a pleasure being on your podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. It's the new detox I'm doing.
Amazing. Fuck yeah.
And just my insatiable, joy and lust for life as well.
Yummy.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a really, very juicy and I know valuable conversation that a lot of people, and entertaining, I'm sure, as well. So
sorry about the no dildos.
That's the next one.
The second one.
Part 2.
How to fuck with a strapless strap on. Even the podcast guy wants to know. No, he doesn't. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay,
All
that's a
right.
great way to wrap up.
So thank you, and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Amazing. Love you.
Love you.